Hi, Dr. Erin Crowley-Champeau. My name is Brooke Arena, and today I will be discussing pseudo-archaeology and social media. To start, pseudo-archaeology is the fake or alternative archaeology that is not based in science and often peddles racist beliefs that primarily affect South American and African cultures. Some monuments that are affected by this frequently are the Great Pyramids of Egypt, as I mention in this video as I deconstruct BuzzFeed Unsolved's video of 3 creepy cases of ancient aliens, the ancient city of Tiwanaku. Pseudo-archaeology's relationship to social media is pretty complex, as social media gives pseudo-archaeology a platform to stand on. It allows people to share their beliefs, off for better or for worse, but that's where it becomes difficult, because people will believe what they see even though it is not based in science, because frequently they are not given the alternate perspective, which is scientific. So they are receiving a one-sided argument that has no facts. People are naturally skeptical and they love to speculate about history and archaeology and our past. In reality, this takes away from actual archaeological findings and the real stories of these cultures that are continuously affected by this. So today, I'm going to be talking about BuzzFeed Unsolved's YouTube video about the ancient city of Tiwanaku.
It's the ancient city of Tiwanaku in Bolivia, a city that was high above sea level, roughly 13,000 feet. The people of Tiwanaku utilized massive monolithic stones that weigh up to 450 tons. How the people of Tiwanaku moved these enormous stones remains a mystery. Some suggest the stones were pulled along logs, but others believe aliens may have aided with anti-gravity methods.
Ryan begins by discussing the 450-ton monolithic stones that they used to build the structures within Tiwanaku, and he describes whether they were moved by the most likely answer, logs that were stacked and then they were pulled, or anti-gravity techniques. I think that it's interesting that Ryan mentions both of those, as it seems he is making the case for ancient aliens, and then he describes the obvious answer compared to something that is just so far-fetched and has no evidence whatsoever. So I find it interesting, and I have noticed that as a characteristic of the social media posts I have looked at about pseudo-archaeology, is that they do provide the more likely answer, and then they provide this other answer that is just so fantastical and it makes no sense. But that is why I suppose people keep watching, is because they want the, to them, more interesting answer.
Also discovered on the site were 200 elongated skulls, possibly the heads of shamans, whose heads were bound to that shape in an effort to amplify their ability to communicate with deities. Conceivably, these shamans elongated their skulls to emulate the deities that visited them.
Ryan then makes a claim about the 200 elongated skulls that were found at the site of Tiwanaku. He claims that either shamans elongated their skulls to emulate the deities or to better communicate with them. This is also not true, as the city of Tiwanaku was very diverse and it had a lot of different cultural groups, which obviously the elongation of the skull is characteristic of their culture, but within the different groups, the style of dress was also very much involved in the culture, but particularly headdresses, which, since they have been able to recover hundreds of skulls, this makes the archaeology very interesting, and it provides a lot of context for the history behind their culture, and it allows us to fill in the gaps with the truth rather than what Ryan is providing here, which is just completely undermining the actual cultural significance.
Perhaps the main mystery of Tiwanaku is what instruments the people used to carve their stones to achieve such exactness without the use of power tools. For example, there are H-blocks that interlock in a detailed and sophisticated manner that require no mortar. On site,
Ryan then describes the intricate carvings that are done into the monolithic stones that are at the site, and he believes that they are far too intricate for the assumed tools that the people of Tiwanaku had. This is also not true. They had a significant amount of hammerstones. They had hard and soft hammerstones as well as large and small ones. They also had chisels. I think this stems from not only his misunderstanding with the capabilities of stone tools, but also what tools they had. I don't think he realizes how precise these tools can get and really how well they worked.
There's also a calendar that some believe dates millions of years back and made by visitors from outer space. For good measure, near Tiwanaku's Gate of the Sun is a wall decorated with heads that some believe could be aliens.
Ryan then makes the claim that the calendar that is famously attributed to Tiwanaku, but also Gate of the Sun, which includes many carved heads, are to be aliens, and he believes that the calendar was created millions of years ago by aliens. This is also not true. As previously mentioned, they had the technology and the means to create such great pieces of architecture. Many scholars also believe that they had a line of production in order to create such precise, intricate marks and carvings. And then onto the heads. I can't believe that he claims this and then shows a picture of it. When you look at these heads, it is clear that they could also be humans. It is so much easier to look at those and say, oh, those are human heads. It is a significant amount of mental gymnastics to convince yourself that those are aliens, which this is also a typical mindset within pseudo-archaeology, is just finding things and spinning them and thinking, oh, it could be this, when obviously it is not that.
It's crazy.
Okay,
they ruined a kid's birthday party.
You're talking about a civilization that is us now, that is able to perceive advanced art and like expression in that way. We could separate reality from not reality.
Yeah.
What I'm positing is I don't know if they had that capability back then, especially in the cave paintings.
You don't think back then?
In the cave painting ones, you think
you don't think they were creative? My big takeaway here is that art is not proof.
Okay, sure.
Ryan then makes the only way I can describe this claim is ignorant. He believes that ancient peoples were not creative enough or didn't have the perspective of the world that we currently have. This is just unbelievable to me, to believe that they weren't able to create something like that. This just goes into my greater conclusion about pseudo-archaeology, which is that it stems from a lack of education. It stems from misinformation, and it stems from a mishandling of evidence. Because pseudo-archaeologists will take pieces and bits, a piece from that, a bit from that, to make their claim true to them, true enough to share. Even though, as seen in the video, there's no evidence. It's just, it could be this. Just it's the same thing with the alien heads. Could be an alien. But the everyday person is not given the tools to disprove that with their education, because they are not taught about South American or African histories. The education system is obviously Eurocentric. It puts an emphasis that European powers are the greatest and everyone else is lesser than. This will subconsciously create biases within people where they are more likely to believe that South American or African cultures were not able to create such monuments. Hi, I'm butting in. There was a point that I wanted to touch on that I forgot to touch on during this recording, and it's really important. I just wanted to quickly address people who do lack the education to disprove this. That is one part of it, and it's not a continuous excuse, because many of the people that spread this and believe this are willfully ignorant, because there is significant proof how ancient sites are created that aren't aliens, and this research is everyone. It takes less than an hour to disprove these theories. So there is a willful ignorance that is happening here, and it's not using the lack of education as an excuse. No, I was a kid, I watched these videos. Obviously, I watched them and I was like, that's not true. I know that's not true. But there are people out there who will believe them. I also don't think that Ryan believes this to be true, but it doesn't matter because he's spreading this. This video has millions of views, and somewhere out there will believe them. Also, within the comments and through all the social media posts I've looked at, people are saying they're being real about this. They're like, these beliefs are rooted in racism. This is simply not true. There's even one that's like, why can't we just believe that ancient people were capable of creating this? And I also have a lot of likes on these comments as well. So there's a lot of people that do feel this way about this, which I think is really important, and it gives me some hope. Overall, thank you for a great semester. I hope you have a great summer. And enjoy. Thank you.